everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have these different steps to awakening. And Buddhism is no different. You know, there's the stream enter, the once returner, non-returner, and the arahant. And when you start explaining these things, you start getting into the hindrances and the fetters and kind of some deep subjects and a different kind of look at consciousness without actually using the word consciousness. So from the Western standpoint, it's a little bit difficult to see what's going on there rather than just having like a straight out conversation. So this Frank Wander's approach is very interesting. He says that there's really three primary areas that a person should look at when it comes to awakening or for enlightenment. And one of them is the first one, I guess you could say, is our overall awareness. That we have to increase our overall awareness and you know, the things that we communicate out in the world, and be very, very aware of what we're actually seeing and hearing and smelling, tasting and touching, you know, with our senses, but also body awareness. And these are our primary awarenesses. You know, he calls them forms and shapes, but they're actually the body and all the material things out there and our connection with it. And to have this deeper connection, which means that we have to basically be very, very mindful and remind ourselves that we are actually trying to be more aware, you know, more mindful of what we're doing. You know, when you look at mindfulness, a lot of it is just memory. You know, it's reminding us that we have to be more mindful. And it's very easy to stop and not be mindful if we just kind of not care about it. You know what I mean? Probably the best approach for us to be mindful and for us to be aware is constantly remind ourselves to do it. You know, like ask ourselves, some self-inquiry, like, you know, what am I seeing right now? What am I hearing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, different questions we can ask. We can even ask the question, who am I? To really take a look at, you know, what is going on here. So the first step is being much more aware, as aware as we can. And we can practice that on a cushion, but also we should practice that off the cushion. In other words, we should be practicing that 24 hours a day if we're really serious about waking up. The next area is to look and understand, you know, the impermanence of everything, but even more than that, to give up any kind of control. And this is a hard one for a lot of people, this idea of control, because we immediately feel as if we're giving up on life, or giving up on ownership, or we're giving up on our dreams or our goals. But that's not what it means. But the type of control where we are very aware, first of all, of these sticky things in our lives, you know, the attachments, that type of thing. If we give up control, we're noticing, again, a keen awareness on these things that we are attached to, and giving up the control of needing these things to be satisfied. Also giving up the control of our beliefs and how things turn out for us. Again, we're not giving up on anything, but we're giving up the idea that our world has to be a certain way, that things have to be set up in a certain way for us to be happy. So if we give up control, and this is a huge subject when you think about it, because especially with the political thing that we're finding ourselves in, who's in control, who isn't in control, on and on and on. But the control, when we look at it from a spiritual standpoint, it's the control of not having things to be a particular way for us to be happy. And if something isn't turning out the way we want it to, that we can just kind of, understand that and really realize that the lack of control that we have, if we feel that we're in control all the time, number one, we kind of come across as being very, very spoiled, like, yeah, I want it my way, otherwise I'm just going to have a breakdown, that kind of thing. And so control is one of the primary things. We'll come back to that. And then the third area is the seeing everything from a place of consciousness, or we could even say from this presence, this aware presence that we should be familiar with in our meditation practice. But I'm not necessarily talking about only in our meditation practice, but outside of our meditation practice, to see the world and from this place of consciousness, pure consciousness that we are. And this, more than anything else, really puts us in a place, an awakened state. Now, it's very important to point out that we're not, when we talk about enlightenment and maybe wish for enlightenment, that we're not trying to achieve anything, because enlightenment is our innate nature. I mean, we are enlightened beings, but we fail to see it. We fail to notice and to recognize our enlightenment. But all of us are equally enlightened. It's nothing that we can actually work at in such a way that I'm going to become enlightened at some point, and actually that will hamper our ability to become enlightened. If we're constantly seeking and wanting it to happen at some point in the future, we will overlook that we already have it. And so we want to be very, very careful with that. And that's why a lot of people that are, I guess we could say in the non-dual world, because in the non-duality teachings, there's not a lot of talk about practice, the kind of practice that we would do here with meditation. And I'm all for practice. But the reason they say that practice is really kind of no big deal, they could say, is because there's a danger of practicing to become enlightened in the future. Like, the more practice I do, the more enlightenment, and the sooner that'll happen for us. And that's part of the danger that I was just talking about, is kind of hoping that it's going to happen in the future. And as we know, the future never really comes. There is no such thing as the future, only in our mind. It's everything is present moment. Everything is the present time. That's the only thing that we'll ever experience, is the present moment. And if we're waiting for something in the future and constantly reminding ourselves about that, there's a real danger in that. So the meditation that we're going to be doing here, I should explain a little bit about it. I think it might go a little bit smoother for you. There's a lot to it, and so it'll sound like a teaching somewhat. And I'll try to guide you through this so that it isn't so teachy. I'll use that word, teachy. And so if I explain a little bit about it, it might go a little bit easier. But it's what we're doing in the meditation is using an analogy. And the analogy is that this world, that basically the mind and body, let's just say that the mind and body are the ego. And when we are able to recognize the mind and body from this state of presence or consciousness, whatever we want to call it, that is, we could say, our immediate reality, or our true nature, being able to look at this ego, which is the mind and body. And in this analogy, we're using the mind and body as the world, the entire world. So the body is the land itself, and then the mind is the water. The waves on the water are our thoughts. The below the waves in the current of the ocean are our emotions. So the world is the body and the mind. And we could probably just go from there, but the primary thing is that the world is held within the universe, and the universe is the consciousness that we are. So everything is this consciousness that we are seeing and that we are dealing with, and it's very, very vast, and actually holds and carries the entire world, which is this mind and body. So I think it's a very good analogy when we notice and live an enlightened life. Our enlightenment is recognized, we'll say. It is very much like being cradled by this consciousness that we are. The consciousness, which is the universe, surrounds and cradles the entire world. And the world, again, is the mind and body. And I think with that explanation, it'll help you with the meditation. Gently close the eyes. Just bring your attention to the breath. We always want to bring our attention to a meditation object. And we're using the object as a tool to bring ourselves into this presence, this present moment, awareness. The breath is a very good meditation object. It's always there. It's almost as if we can build a solid relationship with it. Many times when we have a good meditation, we actually can call it the sweet breath, because it can really be our friend sometimes. And it's always a good idea to be able to use the breath throughout our days, not only in our formal meditation practice, but just to come back to the breath whenever we get a chance. Have one of those moments of mindful moment, if you will, just to bring ourselves home. That's what the breath can feel like sometimes. Our breathing is connecting ourselves with our home, no matter where we are. I'd like to remind you to pay special attention to your posture, keeping the back fairly straight. Chin lifted. So this meditation is not setting a goal We're not trying to get anywhere. We're not trying to get intellectual, but we are trying to clear our minds and be open to all possibilities. And meditation is a practice, and with all practices, it's meant to be done again and again until it becomes a part of our lives. And if it's not done regularly and consistently, it could be called an exercise. We practice so that something becomes so familiar that it can be done with ease, so that very little mental or cognitive effort is needed. And when done correctly, the person that goes into a meditation is not the same person that comes out of it. So please keep your attention on the breath as much as you can. Place your attention where you feel the breath the most, perhaps around the tip of the nose. And most of us are avid meditators, so wherever the breath feels most familiar to you would be a place that you want to come to. When we focus our attention upon something that deliberately and with success our awareness is brought to the present moment, and coming to the present moment is easy to do but difficult to sustain if it isn't practiced. And again, this could be practiced in formal meditation or throughout our days by inviting us to come back to the breath, reminding us to be aware and mindful. And we're building our focus, our awareness. And without focus or this attention, it goes out into the world of material form. The world of material form is where we believe our world to be. We believe our world is what we see and hear out there. But our true journey is an inward one. And so focusing on an object brings us home to our inner experiences. Our ability to think and have emotions is a survival mechanism that works really quite well for us. It's our fight or flight response. And it works well in situations where survival is foremost. When we're being harmed or threatened by something, we likely would not decide to sit and focus on the breath and restrain our attention, being concerned with keeping our mind from wandering. But when the opportunity presents itself, the ability to be present and single-focused is an incredibly valuable tool for learning life's lessons. Focused attention is a powerful hallmark of one that is mindful. Allowing the mind to become single-focused on an object or task brings our world together to create an immediate reality, a reality that is beyond time and space. And this is really the ultimate power. And this immediate reality is you. And you are not your thoughts, and you're not your emotions. You're not your ideas or plans. So stay with the breath here. And count the breaths if that helps. And focus on the finer areas or the finer points if that helps as well. And just keep the mind open. We should never allow ourselves to feel as if we're wasting our time meditating, feeling as if you should use this time more wisely by allowing the mind to fix something that needs to be fixed in the future, or visiting something that has happened in the past. Meditation is not about allowing the mind to have its way and doing these types of tasks. And this is the ego attempting to win an awareness battle, something that we don't want to let happen. But resting in the present moment allows insight to arise. It allows you to be involved in this inner seeing in a totally silent way, to tune into what really matters. Focusing on the breath, recognizing that you are free as long as you focus and feel the body and are resting in the present moment. Take a moment here to remind yourself that you are not the body or the mind, and that thinking you are body and mind only holds you captive to the ego. It's really quite that simple. Now, using the entire earth and more as an analogy for what we often feel we are, what we as people are in regard to body and mind, imagine the earth as being you. The earth is your body. You cannot see all of you because it's too big to get in the picture. When you look to see all of you, the you that is looking cannot see all of it. Although you can feel and know it as you, and know that you are there. Now, outside of this world is the vast universe, and this is aware consciousness. And it is It is everywhere, vast and deep. It goes on forever. People try to measure it, and it never ends. And you can be aware of this, but you cannot see all of it, only part of it. But you know it's there. And you know that this sum total is you. So this universe is our representation of the consciousness which you are. Now at this moment, imagine or visualize the ocean in front of you. In this analogy, the ocean is part of this world, and so it is part of you. It is the mind. Looking at the ocean, you can see the movement of its waves, always changing, being pushed around by the wind. Now use this representation, the waves on the ocean, as a representation for your thoughts. Your thoughts are the waves upon the ocean. And imagine your emotions are the current within the depths of the ocean. One affects the other. In fact, the movement of the earth is affecting the atmosphere and the wind, which affects the waves on the ocean, which affects the emotions or currents in the depths of the ocean. Now, even if the earth, the land and the ocean were polluted or went bad somehow, it would still exist and would still be the earth. It could be cleaned up or picked up a little bit, but it's still the earth. Or for the sake of our analogy, it is the body and mind. But this is not the total of who you are. Even in our analogy, you are not the ocean, the thoughts, or the current under the ocean, which is your emotions, nor are you the earth. If we step back and try to take a look at what we are, we find that we step back into consciousness. Consciousness itself. That which surrounds and holds the world is this consciousness. So as we view the earth from this place of consciousness, we realize this is who we are. If we are aware of the waves, we are self-aware of our thoughts. And if we are aware of the current beneath the waves, we are self-aware of our emotions. Meditation allows us to move away from the thought that we are merely body and mind, thoughts and emotions, and that it is the body that is experiencing the material world. This is simply the ego. The ego's job is very important. Its job is to explain all this to you in order for the real you to protect itself. Like cleaning up pollution of the world. We know that if one feels that this is not their home, it can get a little bit messy, and the result is pollution. all involving the ego. So if we are aware and conscious of our thoughts and emotions, we are conscious and aware of the ego. The result of this is that we are not fooled by illusions of body and mind. We can still care for them in the same way we take care of other belongings, but this is not who we are. So rest in meditation. Rest in the presence that meditation can provide. It is in this presence that you can ask, who am I? It is here that the answer will come. Once you find the answer, continue asking until consciousness itself, which is you, knows it is completely separate from the identification with thoughts and emotions. Whether you are on the meditation cushion or not. The idea is to no longer be carried away with the waves of thoughts and the pull of the current of emotions. The earth is like a magical school ground, a very special place. The land and water that make up the earth gives it life and abundance. And all of it is cradled and held within the vastness of consciousness. And you are that consciousness. So keeping your attention on the breath, finding that place of presence. Keeping in mind the analogy, the earth, the ocean, the waves are your thoughts, the current in the ocean, your emotions. In order to view all of this and see all of this, you're seeing it from a place that we could imagine as the universe, but it is consciousness. So you are the witness of all of this. Life is folding before your very eyes. It's unfolding before you. Bring our palms together in front of our heart, if you like. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we meet with spiritual and worldly success. May we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you.